So let's roll.
Yeah, let's go with it. We are good to go. You're
Right.
on.
Hayat, hayat, hey, yawa, hey, yawa, hayat, 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 hey, hayat, 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 hey, Joe, hey, Joe. Joe and he can Joe. Ayawa, Haya, Hayat, hey, Ayat, Had, Ayat, hey, Ayat, Had, Haya, and he can Joe, and he, oh, and he, oh, and he, oh. Ayawa, Haya, Hayat, hey. Hayat, 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 hey, hayat, 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 he, hey, he, ayawa, hayat, hayat, hey, hayat, 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 hey, hayat, it's the one that we all know. At one time or another, we all swam from the same hole. That's when my water broke. That's when my father spoke. He said, when I was young, I was told, know how the water tastes, know which way it flows, feel the wind, know which way it blows. Learn from the animals, the birds and the bees. Say a prayer for the home ground, the rivers, the rocks, the mountains, the ocean and trees. Always give more than you take. Always work hard for the people's sakes. Don't tell lies. Do things right. Sing your own song and you won't be wrong. So what I know is what I owe. Take it, use it, then put it back in the ground where it was before it was found. And then give it water, let it flow, and give it light, and make it bright and let it glow with love, with respect. That way, that day, we all can grow. Yotwa, Yotwa, Yotwa. So, my name is Brian Dwayne Tripp. I was born April 6, 1945, Eureka, California, the old General Hospital. I just had my 76th birthday, just a month ago. So my time's on the roll right now. So I was born to my dad's Amos Tripp. My mother is Violet Donahue Tripp. I have 4 other brothers. I had one that passed on us, but my oldest brother, that's Sonny. My nephew Sonny's dad, and Emil's grandpa. He's my oldest brother. He's turning 80. Pretty soon we're having a birthday party for him, pretty quick. My brother Amos, he died 5-6 years ago. My brother Leroy is a truck driver. My brother Amos is an attorney. I'm the middle guy. And then I got a brother David, counselor and teacher up in Orleans way. And my brother Philip, my youngest, lives in Antioch, down the Bay Area. And he's been to school and stuff and took care of his in-law people that passed, and with his wife and stuff now and kids. Got a daughter graduated from Berkeley, another one graduated from another college. And, all my people are doing stuff. Emil and everybody, they're all going to college and living their lives, and working with families and kids, and it's awesome. I was born in Eureka. I was conceived over here in Cornell, a town that's not even there anymore. It's an old logging town. And after a couple of years, we moved to Klamath, where I grew up, down at the mouth of the Klamath River. My tribe is a Kuduk tribe, and we're on the middle stretch of the Klamath River. So the Yurok have the mouth up to a certain point, and then we take over, and then the Oregon tribes take over after that. So I grew up down with the Yurok people, and my father was a timber faller. He fell big redwoods, the big redwood trees, not the little ones they have nowadays. My dad fell the great big trees. Another part of a poem is called How I Became a Coastal K-Rock. Now, our pronunciation is Kuduk, but one of the guys up there gave us the title K-Rocks, and we became Coastal K-Rocks. Kind of in a good way, but kind of in a bad way, making us kind of like, we didn't grow up in the home ground kind of thing. We grew up down the river. We grew up down with the Yurok people. So we're not quite like the upriver people, see, the ones that stayed up there and lived up there. Well, the guy that taught my dad how to fall timber was from up there. He was my dad's first cousin. And he said, bring your new wife and move down to the coast, This is like in 1939 or 40. I was born in 45. So we picked up and moved down here. We're in McKinneyville right now. We were just 10 miles from here where they moved to, and all worked in the woods. My dad, like I said, felled trees, and later on I became a choker setter for Simpson Timber Company. My dad was working for him too. And so that's how we all sort of made our living, working in the woods, Some part of where you separate the boards and all that. Lumber. We worked in the lumber part. We also worked in the veneer. We worked falling trees. We worked choker setters, hauling the trees out of the woods and taking them to the mills and that kind of stuff. That was pretty much all the kind of employment that was available, and we all loved it. I have a different opinion about it now, but back in those days, logging was the thing, And we cut down redwood trees that were probably 20 feet across or more, I mean, they were huge big trees. And that was what my dad did. He ended up dying doing that. He was 57. I was in the Army, was drafted and stuff, and I was on my way to Vietnam. I came home and spent 2 weeks at home, and got to visit with everybody, and I went back and I found out our orders got canceled. It was kind of like I got back home on a Sunday or something back there. I was in North Carolina, Fort Bragg. And I found out on a Sunday night. I called my people up, my mom and them, and told them I didn't have to go to Vietnam, which we were all worried about. I was worried about it, my mom and dad too. Next day or so, my dad went to work and got killed. Limb fell out of a tree, and what they call widowmakers, and killed him. So, as fate goes, I'm 76. He was only 57. At the time I thought, wow, I thought he was kind of older guy, but
Now I realize it. He missed out on so much. But he had a good life. My mom, she died 92 or something. Not age 92, but 1992. So she lived a longer time afterwards. She had 5 beautiful boys, my dad. Whole bunch of nieces and, her sister's kids. She took care of a lot of kids, and we were all involved in, and this is where I get a lot of my stuff. My mom was #1 PTA, she was the president of the local. She became a longtime member, whatever they call them, lifetime member. She got involved in, when the Indians were getting the wrong end of the stick in schools, she and their group gathered together, and they got rid of our principal one time because he was a butt, And so she was involved in a lot of things. My dad, he was the logger. We went out every day. He went to work every day, unless he was so sick he couldn't get out of bed. He wasn't a hard alcohol drinker, but he drank beer. He loved to drink his beer. My mom never did drink. She never, she smoked a little bit. My daddy smoked a couple packs of Camels every day. But they were both hard-working people that took off. My dad, he was a Boy Scout leader. Took care of other people's kids, and took us on camping trips and stuff like that. So we were like that. My mom, like I said, she was fighting for us on the other run. Later on in life, she became on the first board of ITEP. I don't know if you know ITEP, Indian Teachers Education Program at Humboldt State. She was on the board there. United Indian Health Services, which is now a big conglomerate, kind of place. She was on the board of that, beginning board. My brother Amos was the first director of the program. My wife at the time, Dolly, she was his secretary, and then later on I became the bookkeeper for the first United Indian Health Service, which now employs I don't know how many people. They have places here and there in Crescent City. It was our health thing. So my mom, like I said, she was so involved in that kind of stuff that, and good at it. They had a good group of people here that all worked and did their stuff, and they traveled many miles to Sacramento, to Bay Area, to different places to go to these meetings, health meetings. The place you're from right now, what is it?
Intertribal friendship.
Intertribal. They were part of, that whole kind of scene that was going on back in the 60s or something, 50s even probably. And that working for their Indian people, their health and their well-being and that kind of stuff. So later on I became, I became active and stuff. It wasn't until I came home from Vietnam that I really got involved in the politics and stuff like that. But all through our growing up lives, we were all influenced by our parents' thing, Like you say, my dad was a Boy Scout master, my mom worked PTA and all that kind of stuff. So it's in the blood, it's in the blood. Trying to help people and trying to help our Indian people and doing our thing. I even ended up down the Friendship House one time, I was there for 3 months, probably
do some quick math. 15 years ago or so, maybe a little bit more. And it was a good time, you know. Of course, you know, for me, I didn't think I was all that bad, you know, but, you know, we always say that, right? I'm not an alcoholic, I'm not a drug addict, I'm not this, I'm just this, you know. But it did me good, and I was there for 3 months. We had some people from up here that had been there for a little while, and then a couple afterwards, and we banded together, sort of like. And Jake, I don't want to mention names, but Jake Blake, he was my peer buddy, and you know, I couldn't go any place without him. And me and his father were best of friends since 2nd grade, so you know, we connected up, and like I said, I was a part of the experience there, and I'd go and sing, you know, when somebody hit a milestone, and they'd take me up on the hill with them, and because I was the elder there, they'd take me up, and I'd sing for them while they were being presented their, you know, their award, you know, their little things, and it was a good experience. I went through it, and then finally, one guy had a birthday before mine. He went out, got drunk, him and another guy, and he stayed over and then went to the house right next door, you know, the old place, you know, and he ended up staying there for a while, you know, just drinking and going crazy, kind of. And the other guy, he came back to the house, and he got kicked out the next day, or he didn't get kicked out, he left on his own. That's your own prerogative, right, is leaving. And then my birthday was the next day, and I said, because of this one guy, we all got put on lockdown, you know, couldn't talk to nobody, couldn't telephones, and I was already there for 3 months. I did my time, you know, and because of his action, we all got put on restriction. So I called my buddy up that lives down there and said, hey, come get me, I'm out of here. So next day I was gone, it was on my birthday. Yeah, like I said, I don't know how many years ago, 15 years ago or something. But it was an adventure, you know. It was like, I rode down with my brother David and his friend Willard Carlson, and they said, I don't want you thinking that I'm interfering with your life or nothing, Willard said, but he'd already been down there. But I think this would be a good place. I was homeless, had all my stuff on the street, or in a locker, and my brother David came pick me up, and they drove me down there, and I never said a word to him the whole time from Eureka to San Francisco. We stopped and had breakfast, and I didn't even talk to him then. I just ate my breakfast, and I was kind of hurt, I was kind of pissed, I was kind of sad for myself. But, so I went and did it. And he said, they left, got me there and they left, and the guys are there and said, well, this is like 6 months. And I said, 6 months? I thought it was just 3 months, you know, like, well, that was the old time, you know, now we figure we need a little bit more time, so 6 months is, why, you're not down with that? And I said, well, I wasn't really ready for it, but, well, let me go up and ask the boss. I forget what his name was. He was living on a boat out in Sausalito someplace, you know, one of them kind of guys. And they went up, talked to him, another guy come back, he said, yeah, he said, let him stay as long as he wants. 3 months, if he's okay with 3 months, he wants to stay another 3 months, or 2 months, or whatever, let him go ahead and stay. You know, let him make up his mind what he wants to do. So I ended up staying for those 3 months. And like I say, on my birthday, I just said, I've had enough, you know, and so I ended up leaving. But again, it was a good point in my time, you know, it helped me out, got me through a winter, you know, that I was living without houses and that kind of stuff, you know. But yeah, that was just 15 years ago, I think, or 20, something was around in there. But
Wow.
anyway, it was a good time, and I learned some new lessons and learned some, you know, new ways of thinking, and Um, so over the years, you know, I've had a lot of good mentors, teachers, you know, that seem like they come at a time when you're really looking for it, or you really need it, or they think you need it, and so they're making themselves available to you, you know. So over the years, like I said, I've had many people like that have made me sort of who I am. People tell me I'm famous, but you know, I don't sign autographs every day, so you know, I don't. But I have a lot of people that now they come to me and say, "Man, you know what? You're the guy.
You're
you
the
know,
man.
you're the man.
Yes.
And I begin to realize that I've had a lot of influence in people's lives, especially the art and my cultural life. And but then I go back to my friends, you know, that I had in school, and we talk about the good times we had. So we're all influencing each other, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Klamath during the 50s. You know, the 50s were like, wow, you know, wide open. Just like you see in the movies, you know. The 50s were the bomb, you know, they were all them phrases and cool and, you know, all them phrases, you know. And I grew up in a small town, 500 people or so, and then surrounding area. And we'd go home every weekend, or every chance we got, we'd go back up the river, you know, but I'm primarily there. I learned how to catch eels. I learned how to do all these kind of things that mostly Kaduks don't get a chance to do, you know. They do in their own way, but down there it was a lot different. I got exposed to the ceremonials, the brush dance, and stuff like that. Things that were going on down there that weren't going on up home. And back to that poem, see, now that I'm a coastal K-Rock, it's not something that, first it was laid out sort of in a, kind of in a bad way, you know, like, you're a coastal K-Rock, you know, you're not home ground K-Rock, Kaduk, you know. K-Rock is a slang and coastal is another, you know, kind of thing. So I'm a coastal K-Rock. And I say it's, at first it was meant to be kind of looking down on you, but now it's a fact that I proudly boast, you know, growing up out on the coast, you know. It's like a fact that now I proudly boast, you know. I'm so appreciative of being able to be there and learn what I did. And then going home on the weekends, my mom and dad would take us back home every chance they got. We'd load up in a car and drive from Klamath up to Somes Bar. It'd take like 6 hours. 6 hours to drive from down here to Mouth, go all the way around Eureka and go on up. And now it's like 2 hours. I mean, it was a little old 2-lane road, just taking every curve and the corners. And it was an adventure, you know. We'd take off 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and after my dad got off work, and then take off. We'd load the car up and we'd all head out, and we'd get home about midnight up in Orleans. And we'd all be, you know, sleeping, and, you know, and they'd come up and get us and walk us down to the house. And being as it was in kind of spring, summertime, we'd all sleep out outside, you know, on the porch. We had beds and underneath the cherry tree. And by the time we woke up, you know, the sun's kind of getting down on us a little bit. And my dad, he'd already been up from down the river where he went, did his steelhead fishing and stuff. And that's what he went up there for, was to fish, you know, just with his line and pole. And we'd help out doing chores and stuff, and Grandma'd be cooking breakfast, and we'd finally get all the chores done and eat breakfast, and then we could take off and go swimming up on the Salmon River. We were on the Klamath River. And just a little ways up the river there, and my dad's aunt and uncle, to their house. He was the only child, so he was Bill Tripp and Bessie Tripp's nephew, and he could talk really fluent. My mom did too, and they'd stop and visit for a while, and we'd hang around there for a few minutes, and then we'd all head down the swimming hole and spend all day there swimming. You know, just man, beautiful place and nice clean river, and it was our place, the Tripp Ranch. You know, my dad's aunt and uncle's place, and we'd spend all day there, and finally they'd have to pretty much rush us out of there, get us out of there, so we'd go home and eat and then spend the night. And Sunday would be the same thing, same routine, do some more stuff and go up there and go swimming as long as we could. And we'd always say, oh, we're out of here by 2 or 3, you know, so we get home a little bit earlier this time, but it never failed. We were there 5, 6 o'clock, and finally, by the time we took off, it'd be midnight again when we got home down there. And my dad would have to get up and go to work in the morning, and you know, that kind of stuff. You know, it was always an adventure. You know, we always had a great time. And if we couldn't go up there during the summer or something, or things were going on and we never got up there, that was always like, wow, we missed out on something, you know, by not being able to do that. So it was a great place.
Wow.
So we just ended up doing our thing. Like, I graduated. I went to Klamath Union Elementary School. There in Klamath. The old school got wiped out by the flood, so I was in the first graduating class of all 8 grades. That was in 1959. The next fall, that fall, 59, I started going to Del Norte High School. Del Norte High School just had a brand new high school built, so I was in the first class that went through all through those. I graduated high school in 1963. Always knew I was kind of an artist. Little things here and there that just kind of told me, you know, I love doing art. So by the time I got in high school, seemed like in grade school there'd be somebody teaching art, but they'd always be the grade ahead of me or the grade behind me, or somehow I missed out on a formal kind of stuff. But I was making art on my own, and when I got into high school, then it was first 2 years you could only take well, I don't know what they call it, arts and crafts, you know, the 3-dimensional stuff, you know. The one class, I had a teacher named Mr. Scoville, and he was awesome. He taught me how to do ceramics and that kind of stuff, and the 3-dimensional stuff. And then junior, I became, started taking painting and drawing, you know, stuff like that. And I had a teacher named Rick Bennett, and Rick was even more, he took on to me, and we became really good friends. And he was a graduate from California College of Arts and Crafts down in the Bay Area, newly married and stuff, and just a young teacher guy. And it's been a while since I've been up to see him, but he's up in his 90s. He's still alive. I go and visit. I went to visit him a few different times, stayed at his house and reminisced and, you know, talked and all that kind of stuff. But he's the one that got me started doing the drawing and painting and stuff like that. And the other guy, Scoville, he gave me the other 3-dimensional side, you know, kind of stuff. So I had a good ground in art by the time I got out of high school. I knew by then I was an artist, and I was drawing landscape stuff, and I'd go down the mouth of the river and draw big rocks and the ocean, you know, slamming up against them and that kind of stuff. Pretty primitive, but, you know, it was my way of doing it, I guess, at the time. I'd get really intimidated by people that could, you know, draw it perfect and make it look just right and all that kind of stuff. But I kept doing it, and like I said, I graduated from high school, 1963, and went through our senior weekend and big parties. Got a little pie walkie, and my mom and dad took us to the party and picked us up so we'd be safe and all that kind of stuff. And then on Monday or Tuesday morning, I went to work in the plywood mill, veneer plant, and started working for Simpson Tipper Company. And they were kind of like the enemy now. I mean, they took over our country, not our country, but Iraq country, and my dad was involved in cutting down all the trees and stuff, you know, that was going to the logging and stuff. And I was there about 6 or 7 months, and I got fired from the veneer plant, and 2 days later I'm working out in the woods, which turned out for me to be, you know, even better. Setting chokers, wrapping cables around the logs so they haul them into the landing and load them on trucks and haul them to the mill and, you know, have them cut up. Trees that were about 20 feet across, big as this room here, big as this. Then I was on the road crew, so the road crew were the ones building the road to get to these other places, you know, where logging was going to take place. So we built a road here and rode out that way. And then I got into helping the rest of the crew, and one of them was what do you call him, powder monkey. He's the guy that drilled underneath the stumps and blew a big hole and then filled it full of dynamite and what they call fertilizer. Fill them full and tamp them down. And I learned how to do that, and I learned how to shoot stumps. Like these stumps that were this big, I'd blow them completely out of the ground. Things that have been there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, you know, we're not talking, I mean, some of them were incredibly big. Little small rings, you know, each year, and I'd come along and blow them completely out of the ground. You know, nowadays, my thinking is so like, wow, how could I do that, you know? But at the time, it was really exciting, you know. I just couldn't get enough of it, you know. Then I got my notification that I was being drafted to go in the Army. So I'd been there maybe a year or so blowing stumps and working with the crew, and next thing I know, I'm my turn to go, and I climbed on a bus, me and 2 other guys from Delmark County, and we took off and picked up some people in Eureka, or we got off our bus and joined them. There was probably 3 different counties worth of young guys going into the Army, being drafted. And I'm like 20 years old, I think. And spent all night driving down on the bus to Frisco. Then from Frisco I went to Oakland. Had to get on another bus, you know, go to Oakland. And then it was another 4 or 5 blocks up to the induction center. And I remember standing around outside watching other people go in, and God damn, you know, I don't know if I want to do this, you know, but so we ended up going in and got upstairs and got inside the room, and no sooner got there and here come this. So I kind of wanted to tell you it was like the power of an Indian song. 2 days before, I'm at home, and a friend of mine was having a beer at this place called the River Run with my dad. He was looking for a ride into town. We were headed to town. He asked us for a ride. He said, "Fuck yeah, jump in." So we gave him a ride into town, and I asked him, "Hey, Grant," his name was Grant Pilgrim, "how about singing me a good luck song? I'm going in the Army here in a couple of days." So he did, and he sang me this song all the way into town. And we dropped him off. He thanked us up, and we thanked him for the song. And 2 days later, I'm on that bus riding down to San Francisco. So we end up getting upstairs and getting into the room there. Here come this sergeant major guy from the Marines, all decked out in his, blues and reds, whatever they call them, fucking all kinds of ribbons on him, and and he comes up and asks the guy behind the desk, he says, how's enlistment going today, Sarge? And Sarge behind the desk says, not too good, Sarge. Marine Sergeant says, I was afraid of that. He stands there for a second, and then he says, okay, you guys over here, count off 10. And they start counting. I'm like number 12 or something. One guy's probably 11, and the other guy's like number 10 or something, because they're all hanging together. And he says, okay, fall out over here, you're in the Marines. Just like that. We were all headed into the Army, we thought, and all of a sudden this guy comes and picks out 10 for the Marines that didn't even intend to be there, Just marched off into another room. It's the last we saw of him. Except for later that afternoon, he just got done calling his mom and dad. He was crying. And he was headed to Pendleton, and we were headed to Fort Ord. And right after that, I'd never seen either one of them after that. Again, to this day, I'm still trying to find out their names and stuff so I can find out what happened to them. Especially the guy that went in the Marines. And for me, like I said, that was the first time. If I'd have went in the Marines, I'm sure probably wouldn't even be sitting here talking right now, If I'd have got drafted into the Marines, I might be dead, or who knows what would have happened to me. So that's the power of an Indian song, that if you believe in it and you understand it, then it just shows you how it works, and that it does work for you. It is a real thing. So as for me, like I said, I went to Fort Hood, Texas for basic training. I never did any KP. I never did any guard duty. I never, all that sad sack stuff, the comic. I never did any of that. I was, because my brother Amos talked me into taking typing when I was in high school. I ended up with a clerical MOS, and because I knew math a little bit, none of the higher math, but just basic math, add, subtract, divide, that kind of stuff. I became the finance clerk. So I got sent back to North Carolina, home of the 82nd Airborne, home of the Green Beret people, Pope Air Force Base. It was a big old place. And so I got signed to my company, and I became their finance clerk and took care of the money. So I never was in a combat situation. We were helicopter, but we were helicopter transportation, and never, as far as I know, saw any combat. So I was just kind of taken care of, by this, I believe, this song, that made me who I was and did my thing, So I was in the service. Like I said, I came home in June. We were getting ready to go to Vietnam, and like I said, I went home and did my 2 weeks and went back to Fort Bragg and found out I wasn't going. And then the next day or so, my dad got killed. So I went back home and emergency leave, and I stayed there over a week longer than I was supposed to. I wasn't going to go back. I said, I've had enough of this shit. And by that time I realized, what a bunch of bullshit it was and stuff. And so my oldest brother said, stupid, they're just going to be looking for you from here on out if you don't go back. you already know you're not going to go to Vietnam until maybe next year, and maybe not even then, you know. So why screw it all up now, you know? So he stuck on me, and finally I went back, and when I got back there, they just want to know how my mom was doing and stuff like that, and glad to have you home, and you know, that kind of shit. And so then a year later I went over there. It was in June of 1965, no, 67. I spent 18 days on the boat. We ended up in Cameron Bay, which turned out to be the biggest supply base that the United States had over there. And I was a short timer, so I just went swimming every day. I had South China Sea, and we had the non-commissioned officers had their beach, the regulars had their beach, officers had their beach, and then everybody did their party shit, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden my face started breaking out. I had these blisters like boils. So I went to the medics, and they told me they were going to send me to a military hospital. And I said, no way. I said, we got doctors back there where I come from, you know, you don't. They said, well, go get your paperwork and you're out of here tomorrow. So actually I never spent 2 years in the Army. I was only 1 year, 11 months and 12 days or something. So I got like 18-day early out even. So that was the end of my Army career, see. I'd say I lucked out, but it wasn't luck, it was this song that, you know, the guy sang for me, and I believed, and you know, that kind of stuff. So I know the power of a song, you know, and what it's meant for, and what it's supposed to do, and you know. It took me a while after I come home to start singing, you know, maybe a few years. I was, how do you call it, enrolled into Humboldt State in 97, 98. No, what am I talking about? 68, 69, somewhere in there. I got married in 1970. I met a lady right there at Humboldt. Her name was Dolly. Turned out she was Kaduk. Was adopted by a white family down in Arcata. We were married for 10 years, almost 11 years, I guess. I have a son named Jasper Edward, you know, hell of a nice guy. So, you know, those things kind of all worked out, you know. Humboldt turned out to be a real good place for me. I did all my school, and well, I didn't do all of it. I'm one class away from graduating with a BA. I finally got to a point where I said, what do you need a degree for to make art, you know? Not realizing that people wanted to have a degree so they could teach and, you know, make a living doing that. And I was more like just doing my work and selling it, you know, as an artist. So I took ceramics and printmaking and some painting and some sculpture and stuff like that, you know, the usual kind of stuff. But it turned out again to be another one of those experiences for me that was a defining part of my life, you know. I met a teacher named Bill Anderson, who was a printmaker. He was part Choctaw, and I took his class, and we became good friends. And then pretty soon he asked me to help him do a class on art from here, and so he kind of eased me into it. Next thing I know, I'm teaching there. And I'm still a student, you know, going to Humboldt, and I'm teaching this class, Northwestern California Indian Art, you know, and another one of those ego boosters, you know, that I mean, not many students were teaching there at Humboldt State at the art department. You know, that was, and it turned out it was like, I didn't know that much about it, but I did it, you know, and it taught me how to get up in front of people and talk and, you know, do my stuff. And I'd have to cram and learn a little bit about Navajo weaving and, you know, which I knew nothing about, you know, but I learned here and there, and I ended up teaching there about 7-8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a good time. By that time, I picked up my confidence in my art and what I was doing, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So that in itself was the booster. You know, it was like I said, I was finance clerk for United Indian Health Services. You know, and I applied for another job called called the Indian Youth Diversion Program. This was in probably 72 or 3, and I got the job. I was the director of this program, working with Indian kids. Tri-County was Humboldt, Del Norte, and Siskiyou County, so the main office was in Eureka. Then we set up an office in Wairika, and then we set up one in Del Norte County. So I was the director. We had 2 directors in each, or 1 director in each county, and each one had a staff of, I think it was like 3 or 4 counselors and a secretary. So there was like 5 people in each county, you know, and I'd go out and visit with them. But I had clients of my own, and which I enjoyed. I loved working with young people, with kids, and helping them go through their, you know, their ups and downs and, you know, stuff like that, you know. And I did that for about 3 or 4 years. And then I was doing the teaching thing at Humboldt, and by that time I had my son, and I was just starting to get into the art kind of part of it, doing the native stuff. And I had Frank Lapina, George Longfish. They were both teachers at, Frank was at Sac State, George was at Davis, and they'd invite me to shows, and I'd submit. And then a couple of times I missed the deadlines, and they'd call me up and say, you know, you ready to go? And well, I think you better count me out from here on out. I just can't hang, you know, because I was doing all these other things and, you know, stuff. And finally I said, I think you just better, you know, kind of leave me out from here on out. And then Frank Lapina, he'd say, okay, but this show, but remember now we got this other show coming up, you know, a couple months from now, so you got. So I couldn't really drop out, you know, and they just kind of kept me going and talked me into being, you know, hanging in there. And so they kept encouraging me, you know, to do that. And I said, God, I wish that's all I had to do with my artwork. A year later, I'm divorced. The job at Humboldt ended, you know. The other things that I was doing just, you know, wasn't going, and so all I had was time to do my artwork, you know. So it was like this inner voice telling me, I'm going to go out for the evening or something. Hey, where are you going? Well, I'm just going to go out someplace and have a beer or something. You remember that time when you said, I wish that's all you had was time to do your art? So I just kept on doing it. You know, I just kept working at it. I mean, 24/7. That's all I did was art. I found my own language and my own way of doing my stuff, and then it became just, you know, all I could do was my art. I was just obsessed, you know, 24/7. And over the years, it just kind of kept piling up, and I got invited to different places that, you know, I'm right in the middle right now, going through all my archive stuff. I'm reaching the end of my time, so it's time to kind of sort it all out. And I've kept all kinds of stuff, you know, from my career, and I don't know how many shows I've been in. I've been in bunches. I mean, a lot. And my art took me to Europe. I went to Austria, France, Barcelona, Spain, all in one setting. Riga, Latvia. Spent one whole kind of summer over there, like 2 months, just traveling, doing art shows and stuff. And it was like, wow, you know, I got to meet other people from other parts of the country and other parts of the world. So I've been lucky that way. I've done shows in New York a couple of different times, upstate New York, the Bay Area many times. I've been so many shows down there. LA a few times, just different kinds of shows. The Jewish art plays, and that kind of stuff. It's been an ongoing kind of thing, you know.
Do you have any art with you? I think I might have noticed you have a tattoo. Is that your artwork?
Yeah.
Wow.
These are a couple of guys that, actually 3 of them. They're me, myself, and I. Me, myself, and I. That came out of the basket design stuff.
Out of the basket design.
Yeah, they're my inspiration, kind of like.
Wow.
I call them my inner circle.
Your inner circle.
Mm-hmm. Just shut for a second now.
Yeah.
You know, the whole way it spread out over the time. Who inspires me and what inspires me? Who inspires me is my brothers and my mom and dad. Like I was lucky to have those high school teachers, and then when I went to college, Bill Anderson. But these other guys, when I got into the art scene, they were the ones that hit me the most and encouraged me to, do art. Just to do art, just do art and do art and do art, just do it, that was, and at the time, during the late 60s, early 70s, what do they call it, when there was money to do shows and stuff at the university, so much of that money would have to be spent on Indian stuff and Chicano art, and all the different groups got their their say in what was going on too. So art was like wow everywhere, Black Panther shit, Black Panther art. That was some of my most inspirational kind of stuff. When they were doing their thing, in Oakland, and you'd find their art all over the place. And there was one guy was doing all of it, posters and, announcements for different things that were going on, all that kind of stuff. And they'd be, like they do now, they plastered all over the telephone poles and, in store windows and stuff. And when I'd go down on the weekends, I'd go down there and pick up a few of them here and there, take them home. And they always had messages in them, like gatherings and get-togethers, statements, like all kinds of stuff, and it was talking about the system, you know, what was going on and what was bad about it and what was good about it. And a lot of the Indian stuff was doing that, you know. Each little group had their own speakers and they were all making their art, you know. So it was rampant. It was all over the place, you know. And we started going down to Sacramento to shows and got to meet a few of them, you know. And there was one called the Mexican Air Force or something like that, and they were like heavy duty shit, you know. They were talking about all of the stuff, and of course the Black Panthers too, you know. They were talking, you know, revolution, you know. That was the name of the game back then, you know. And AIM and all those kind of different groups, you know, having their own heroes, you know. A lot of Che and, you know, what was the other guy's name that became the president there in Cuba?
Castro?
Who?
Fidel.
Castro?
Fidel
Yeah,
Castro.
Fidel and Che and
Che.
all them guys, you know, they became like, you know, the speakers and in martyrdom, you know, Che and the Indians had their own heroes, you know. We didn't get along too much with AIM. California always had its own axe to grind, so to speak. And of course AIM, you know, they had their thing going, you know, and their own beaters and stuff, but by and large California didn't really mix with them that well, you know, because they were plains people, you know, and they were talking about what they knew, so, you know, it wasn't California so much, you know, but they were in a different movement. So we kind of, we schooled up with the, we called ourselves UNA, United Native Americans, when I was at Humboldt. And we go to all the conferences and speak up and do our stuff, you know, and there was a lot of bonding going on, you know, amongst us California people. And we all had our own agenda, you know, kind of thing to talk about. And most of it was cultural and political, you know, and social. We were all getting married. We were all young and we got married. You know, we all got married, you know, out of college. You know, at least up here, my brother Amos and his wife, and me and my wife Dolly, and I mean, we all ended up meeting each other in school and ended up getting married, and you know, our kids are products of that era, you know. And since that time, like I say, my brother Amos became an attorney, and his wife became tribal chairman of the Yurok tribe, you know, for a while. You know, we all became, you know, kind of, and all we could think about was going home and working for our people. I mean, that was our cause, you know, was eventually learning enough to where we go home and start out, you know. During the 60s and 70s, the tribal councils hadn't been even started yet, see. So they had the Intertribal Council of California, you know, which was a big one, ITCC. They were like the big organization. And then a lot of smaller ones became, you know, the roots of that, you know, of ITCC. And then from there, the tribal council started getting recognition. And then, I don't even know if ITC is still in existence, you know, probably not. I never hear of it, you know, but all of the tribal councils grew up out of that organization, you know. And United in Health, the health services was another big mover in California politics, you know. That's where the Friendship House and stuff comes from, era of, you know, working for people, you know, doing the medicine and stuff. So there was a lot of stuff going on at the time, and we all, you know, we were all a part of it, and wanting to, you know, go back and work for our people, and most all of us did, you know. And then on that, we all got married and started having kids, and now our kids are in Berkeley and graduate, and you know, from different schools, and you know, it's for me, it's really incredible, you know.
It reminds me of your line in the poem, "Work hard for the people's sake."
Yeah, yeah.
Working for the people with the people.
That's all we wanted to do, was work for our people. That was our bottom line, you know.
Wow.
And like I said, pretty much all the ones that I knew did, you know.
Yeah.
People from Southern California, like I hear names here every once in a while, Monty Bengosha and a whole bunch of different people like that are heads of their places now, you know, heads of their, and they're in retirement and all that kind of stuff, but they were the movers and shakers, you know, of Indian politics back in those days. And by and large, we all got along pretty good. You know, we all had our own agendas, so, you know, we didn't always agree on everything, but, you know, we became a part of this generation that, you know, was sort of the ones that come out of the university kind of system, you know, and did our thing. Yeah.
Wow.
And now it's like we got all these people going to school and, you know, different things, and there are kids and, you know, grandkids and, you know, stuff like that. It's like, wow, you know, we really accomplished a lot. Our generation, you know, like I said, I started going to Humboldt in '69 or something, you know, and there was a few other ones before that, but, you know, just here and there, you know. So from there on, you know, it's just like, wow, just grew and grew and grew, you know.
The fruits of your labor is felt by the next generation.
Yeah, or the generation after.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying now. It's like grandkids are even going to school. You know? So it's been a good run, you know. Like I said, I kind of dropped out of all of that, just doing my art. I tried to make my art. I tried to make it political. I finally got my how do you call it? My strength up to go ahead and say things, you know, that needed to be said, you know. And I found out that I could say it in my art, and it could be very pointed, you know, to that direction that needed to be pointed to. But a lot of it was really personal, what I was going through, you know, the titles. And each one of my pieces have a title to them. They're not always straight up recognizable or anything, but you have to think a little bit about them, you know. You have to engage it, you know, and look at it. A lot of it, it's all based on the basket work, the designs and stuff like that. A lady named, let's see, can't think of her name right now. She was a Washoe basket maker, and awesome work. And all she did was, her and her husband, they had a little house out in the back. Datso Lali was her name. And she had a little house behind the general store up there, wherever they came from. And the guy that owned the store bought every one of her baskets, you know. So she had a patron. And I'm looking through one of the books they did about her, and it said they showed a basket that she made, and they described it as traditional mortuary marks on this vase like basket, and she gave it a title, and she called it "All My Friends Are Dead or Dying." And I'm thinking, wow. It gave me the courage to write my feelings down on my pieces, to give them titles that, you know, I felt was relevant. And it didn't have to do anything maybe with the images in there, but it kind of described how I was feeling at the time. And I got the idea from her and from abstract art. The guys that were doing abstract art could give, there's a title, and it didn't even have to look like what they were talking about. It just was their impression of what they wanted to put on that piece. That's abstract. That's the thing of abstract art. And then some of it might have been so out that, you know, you couldn't really see that in it, you know, but you say, okay, you know, that's them, you know, doing their thing. And when I saw Dasa Lali doing it, all my friends are dead or dying. I mean, that's where I'm at right now. I've had Frank Lapina and James Luna and my friend Charlie Burns and all these artist people passed away here in the last year. And there are people that are important to my life, you know. So I keep hitting on that. That, you know, my time's coming. So I get a chance to say what I got to say. So that's what it's all about, at least to me. If you're making art, and I'll tell this to any young person who wants to make art, if you're making art and you call it Indian art, then you have a chance to talk about your whatever, your tribe, your people, your feelings, your understanding, what you do, what you don't, you know, here's your chance. Why take all your energy and put it into something that don't mean nothing, you know? You have a platform to speak from. And if you don't take advantage of it, then, I mean, is it for money? You know, you can make money. A lot of the native artists are, you know, they've made buco bucks. So money's there. I know a lot of artists that make art that don't even sell their art. You know, they give it away. So you got a wide range of, but you got to make a living. So there's nothing wrong with selling your work, you know. But if you got a chance to do it and you're doing it, then make it count. Make it, you know, make it count. Because you might not get that chance. So, in fact, we're even a little bit stronger, you know.
I agree. Wow. Well, let's do that.
Let me do
want another shot?
yeah.
All right. Off the record.
I better take it.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, and I appreciate, and tell the house down there, I love you. I went through good times there, and yeah.
Beautiful.
I start off with a jump dance song.
Okay, go for it. You're
And
good to
then
go.
I end up with a poem.
Okay.
So it's called Indian Island. Hey, late night, hi-yat, hi-yay, hey, hey-yat, 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 hey-yay,
Hayet, hayet. 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 Hayet, no wait. Hey, yay, yay, yay. Hi, yay. Hi, yay, hey. Hey, yay, hey. Hi, yay, hey. Hey, hey. Heat, hey, yet. Hot, hey, yet. Hi, yay. Hey, yay, yay, yay. Hi, yay. Out on the island, in the middle of the bay, the sun set twice on the people that day. The world they were making, someone else was taking, saying, Eureka, I found it, claiming it's mine to own. Out on the island, in the middle of the bay, the sun set twice on the people that day. Then came muffled silence, sneaking up out of the dark, something so evil the dogs couldn't even bark. Not a word was spoken until the silence was broken by the sound of dying and so much crying it seemed like the end of the world. Out on the island, in the middle of the bay, the sun set twice on the people that day. Fine lines, bloodlines, spilled, and splashed and splattered. Bodies broken, beaten and battered. Faith torn and tested, shattered to the core. Not giving up breath, not giving in to death. Survivors scattered into their darkest night. Out on the island in the middle of the bay, the sun set twice on the people that day. We know it's not over. We know it's not done. We know for us, our fight's just begun. But meanwhile, we must take time and regroup. We must take time and rest because we know daylight's coming and we have to give it our best. Out on the island in the middle of the bay, the sun set twice on the people that day. Then came cold morning, revealing light, all brand new and shining bright, making promises of a brand new day with a brand new way for the island out in the middle of the bay. Hey at night, hi yet, hi yay hey. Hey it, hey it, hey it, hey it, hey it. Hi it, hi it. Whoa, whoa. That's Indian Island.
I got a plan. Wow.
So now we'll finish up then. Like I said, this one's like, it's called my, like I call it my theme song.
It's a Kuduk national anthem.
Yeah.
That's what we call it.
But I learned it from, again, some teachers that I had, Shan Davis and Charlie Tom, Fred Case, and all the ones that put their stuff to me, and Dewey George and Frank Douglas and Grant Pilgrim. And
Good medicine.
goes like this. Hayat, hayat, hey, hey, hayat, 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 hey, hayat, 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 hey, Joe, hey, Joe, hey, Joe, hey, Joe. Ayat, hey, ayat, ayat, hey, ayat, ayat, he, oh, and he, oh, and he, oh, and
Wow. He wanted to sing with y'all. You wanted to sing
Damn,
with
Samboni. Samboni might save your life
take a
someday.
picture there, take a picture, he's part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. Sammy's credit right there. Behind the scenes. Wow. Well, thank you, BDT.
Thank you.